The combat of Assassin's Creed is one of the aspects that has gone through an incredible evolution over the years. Granted, it was never bad per se, but it definitely wasn't on the level of an Arkham or a Witcher game. Earlier in the years, it was a part of the game where people just went through the motions to complete the task at hand. Later on, the basics of the game stayed pretty much the same, from Brotherhood all the way to Assassin's Creed Rogue. It was your dodge, block, parry, and attack with the kill streak possibility and a limited but iconic set of weapons. But it was really good nevertheless. Then during the Unity era, the combat became really enjoyable, so much so that I would often find myself picking fights with random guards just to enjoy the terrific action. Gone were the days where you could take out any enemy with a single move, because now you really had to work for your kill. And I personally feel that the enemies being divided into 4 to 5 levels makes the most sense, because it's understood that not all men are equal in terms of fighting capabilities, and segregating them in 4 to 5 different groups, depending on their abilities and proficiency, really makes for a tough yet sensible challenge. But since the dawn of the RPG era, the one part of Assassin's Creed that has seen the most improvement would easily be the combat. Although enemies are now divided into hundreds of different levels, which is just insane in a stupid way, I still feel that the combat style in Assassin's Creed we see now is easily the best and the most enjoyable. No wonder that despite having weak-ass storylines and zero connection to actual assassin stuff, the last few games have turned out to be ridiculously successful. Because the creators have made a gameplay system that's not just extremely fun, but also keeps the players coming back for more. But what rank would the combat of each Assassin's Creed game take? That is the question we answer here today. But before we begin, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for more Assassin's Creed content. It's free, it's easy to support a brother from the Creed. And now to the list, number 12, Assassin's Creed 1. I guess it's only fair that we acknowledge the Assassin's Creed 1 despite its tonal superiority, mind-blowing story, and incredible character development had the weakest gameplay in the series. The one word that comes into mind when I think about Assassin's Creed 1 combat is basic, because that's what it is. Everything about the combat here is simple, basic, and we see the fighting in Assassin's Creed in its earliest form, which is great for its time, but in 2022 doesn't really impress or keep the players hooked. Especially if you played the newer titles, the combat in Assassin's Creed 1 will only feel jarring and repetitive. That is just one man's opinion, or is it not? Because I want you to tell me in the comment section down below what rank you would give Assassin's Creed 1 in terms of combat. Next, number 11, Assassin's Creed 2. The game improved upon its predecessor in every conceivable way, and the combat of course was no exception. One thing is for sure, it didn't improve enough to thrust it any higher than the last from the second on this list. The fighting system was good, it still holds up enough to keep Assassin's Creed 2 interesting, but it never was and never will be a marquee aspect of the game, because here too we see the same block, dodge, parry system that is tried and tested, I agree, but too old and slow paced to be fun, especially in this day and age. The reason it ranks slightly above Assassin's Creed 1 is because of the added weapon choices, better animations, which make the combat just better enough to gain a spot over its predecessor. Well, evolution, what can I say? Next, number 10, Assassin's Creed Rogue. Some might be shocked to see Rogue this far down, but I have my reasons. First thing, I hate the fact that it feels like a bootleg version of Black Flag. Second, it's still buggy to this day. Then again, the developers didn't care about it when it released, so why would they care about it now? And the third thing, the naval system is just a massive downgrade from Black Flag. It really is. They've made the swivel gun a pain in the ass, and the naval combat doesn't have the same smoothness and fluidity that it had in Black Flag or even Assassin's Creed 3 for that matter. And besides, the list is about answering the question as to which game's combat was the most enjoyable and which was the least, and Rogue surely tilts towards the least half. Next, number 9, Assassin's Creed Revelations. I've seen so many people club together Revelations, Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed 3, 4, and Rogue together on combat and gameplay lists, but that to me just doesn't make any sense. They're different games, and despite some similarities, they are different in so many ways. I feel it's just wrong to cram them up in a single spot. And on that note, let's talk about Revelations. The game's combat is good, it really is. Quite similar to Brotherhood, but yet it doesn't pack the same punch. The combat animations are pretty good, the kill streak is not as polished, and the bombs were just a distraction more than being a go-to part for the combat. My expectations were astronomical, because the developers claimed pre-release that there were about 120 types of bombs in the game. It really blew my mind, but I was equally if not more disappointed when I saw the final product. 120 terribly mediocre combinations that didn't add any value. Plus add to the fact that the fluidity was halved, and Revelations lands at number 9. Next, number 8, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Surprisingly, Brotherhood's combat is extremely enjoyable to this day. It's smooth as silk, gives you a lot of control over the situation. The moves are cool as hell. The system isn't overly complicated or riddled with too many options like in Revelations. And the best thing, the kill streak. What a treat it is to just go on a killing spree, and with some training and practice, you could kill hundreds within minutes. And the combat will really make you feel like an assassin in his prime. And to anybody who says Brotherhood's and Assassin's Creed 2's combat is the same, you must be smoking the cheap stuff, because it's clearly leaps and bounds ahead. It's challenging yet could be mastered, and I feel feel it has the perfect balance between chaos and control to make the combat feel great. Next, number 7, Assassin's Creed 3. I really wanted to play Assassin's Creed 3 a lot higher, but it wouldn't have been fair to the other games. Although it's my list and I have my favorites, but I won't let that get in the way of logic and facts. But that's it, the fighting system we see in Assassin's Creed 3 is just amazing. And the best part for me undoubtedly was the Tomahawk. I just couldn't get enough of the weapon, and why in the world they never brought it back, I just don't know. But man, it was just relentlessly violent and so damn polished. The animations of the Tomahawk kills are still a treat to watch or play to this day. And the Pivot Blade too, these two are extremely iconic in their own right, and they become even more special when you consider the fact that they appeared in only one game. The fighting style is pretty much the same as we saw in Brotherhood and Revelations, but the aforementioned aspects combined with a solid naval system makes Assassin's Creed 3's combat exceptionally memorable. Next, number 6, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I've seen many people play Syndicate's quick and rapid fire like combat, and some call it the best. I, however, am not one of them. The combat is great, don't get me wrong, but the best? Well, not by a long shot, because as fun as the combat is, there are some major flaws. First off, the strikes of Jacob and Evie, they're just borderline cartoonish. It looks like they're barely touching their enemies, and on top of that, it gives little to no control to the player and is too chaotic and random at times to actually get the desired result. Sometimes you just don't want to kill, sometimes you just want to disarm and maybe kidnap or knock out an enemy. But more often than not, the system goes into auto kill and completely wrecks the game plan. Well, this might just be my experience, but then again, it is my list. Next, number 5, we see Assassin's Creed Black Flag. If you take only the basic hand-to-hand combat into account, Syndicate would easily beat Black Flag, and so would Assassin's Creed 3 in my opinion. But let me remind you, the naval combat is a thing too, and my goodness, is it just jaw-dropping or what? It is incredibly rare in the entertainment or any industry to see perfection, but we see it in Black Flag, because the naval combat, in fact the entire naval system, is simply brilliant, and a big reason why the same from Rogue feels like a terrible letdown. What a disappointment it was, especially since we saw perfection in the previous release. From upgrading the Jackdaw to make it the monster of the oceans, going to war with multiple ships of man of wars, going toe-to-toe with legendary ships, and every aspect from the swivel gun to the mortars and the ram, it all just seems too good to be true. The hand-to-hand combat, well, is pretty good, although quite similar to Assassin's Creed 3 with some different animations, a few extra weapons, and a lot of guns. Combat of Black Flag is mwah. Next, number 4. Well, my least favorite game in the RPG era. Valhalla, despite being a good game, comes across as a terribly repetitive and boring one. And a big reason for that is it's just so damn long. I mean, 70 hours is what it would take an average player to finish the story. Just the story. I've seen job tenure shorter than that. And the combat too is just jarring at times. Starts off really great and extremely fun, but the fun ended for me the moment I found out there are like 400 plus levels in the game. Now that begs the question, how much is too much? And the answer is, that's right, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That's what too much looks like. Too many levels, outfits, bows, swords, and all of that with little to no difference. The combat, despite being awesome, can feel so unimaginative and colorless at times. Well, perhaps too many times. Next, number 3, Assassin's Creed Origins. It was the dawn of the RPG era, and the combat system is top notch, no doubts. The fight systems of Origins, despite being a bit basic in its own right, is exceptional. When it first released, it wasn't something that players were used to, and I don't know about others, but it's really grown on me. See, I hate the RPG era as much as the next old school Assassin's Creed fan, but even I can't deny that the gameplay has seen a turn for the better since its implementation. There's a plethora of swords, bows, scythes, shields, blunts, spears, and so much more to choose from. Although in Origins the weapons are not that distinct, the overall feel of the combat is still great. It really presents the players with an actual challenge, and although the level system is let down, I have to admit that under the right conditions, the combat gives you the experience of a lifetime. Next, number 2, Assassin's Creed Unity. In my humble opinion, Unity has the most underrated combat in the entirety of Assassin's Creed, because it was just a treat. It really was. The balance has been struck perfectly. Just the right number of levels and weapons with hard-hitting strikes that are graceful and free-flowing and look crisp and stylish at the same time, and it's perfectly paced. I've seen people complaining about a bad combat experience in Unity, but I'm yet to experience that for myself, because what I saw was far from it. Arno's attacks really look like they could do some damage, and the parry and deflection system too is magnificent. With realistic and swift animation that will make you want more, Unity isn't one of the most loved ones for no reason. And now, number 1, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Odyssey. I've always had a lot of complaints about Odyssey, but the combat, is just extraordinary. The only game other than Batman Arkham Knight which kept me hooked even after I completed the main story for weeks, if not months, because of the combat. And the sheer number of options for weapons and skills, despite being excessive, is something that'll keep you interested if nothing else. Plus, I love the fact that each special or legendary weapon has its own trait and features. Granted, we saw it in Origins too, but it sure as hell wasn't as prominent as it was in Odyssey. And the best part is, this great combat system is complemented with challenging and intriguing boss fights and a fully developed mercenary system. And there's also a battle arena for you to test your ability. To be honest, what are skills without the appropriate challenges, huh? Actually, really enjoyed the fact that they've taken away the shields and given the protagonist a secondary weapon instead. And who can forget the skills? From the shield breaker ability to the bull rush and my personal favorite, Leonidas' signature kick. It all feels fantastic, and it's exactly that. I know it doesn't feel anything like an Assassin's Creed game, but still, it's just too much fun to pass up. And with that, we reach the end of the video, guys. Let me know in the comment section below which Assassin's Creed combat is your favorite. And also don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. That's it for today, my friends. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay tuned. It's your boy VZX signing out.